the next speakers support computer clubs for a long, long time, and we're very glad that he does. He will come out to some of the computer clubs.
Check 1, 2, check.
Depending on his work schedule. But it is my pleasure to introduce Carrie Holtzman and Anything Goes
Please ask
Q&A.
for volunteers to run
Carrie?
the mics.
Okay.
Because we're going to need it.
Are they going to be able to see me behind this? Do you have like something I can stand on? I am standing on something. That's the sad thing. Hi. All right, we're going to figure this volume thing out here. How does this sound? Can you hear me okay? I think it almost needs a little more bass, doesn't it?
Okay.
Just a little bit? It's a little squeaky? Check 1, 2, check, check. Hello, hello. We're just going to work this out for a second. I need a couple of volunteers to hand out microphones to people who want to ask questions. So I need 2 people who'd be willing to get a little energetic today. And how many of you have not seen me before? Oh, quite a bit. All right, well, good.
Sounding better?
That means I can do all my old stuff and it'll be new to you guys. All right. The very first thing I want to do is just put a little set the tone, because my presentation style is a little different. I just saw this. I just thought this was the best thing, and you might want to watch the volume on this. This is just an unofficial, and this is an ad, but I'm not getting paid to show it to you. I just think it's hilarious. This is a Super Bowl ad that's going to be on. Can we turn it up?
You know, you can always compromise and freedom together. Dober Wawa.
A Dober Wawa. Doberman and Chihuahua.
I don't know what to make of it, frankly. How did this dog get past regions? That's what I want to know.
Will you help us research the animals?
I don't like the fact that it's looking this way. Much better.
All right, I saw that the other day, someone shared that with me, and I just thought it was the funniest thing. All right, so let me tell you, for those of you who haven't seen me before, and some of you still can't see me, I don't know if I'm better off up here or down there. Let me see. I don't know if this is any better. My name is Carrie Holtzman, and I've been in the IT field professionally since about 1991. I run my own computer repair, sales, upgrade business out of my home from Glendale, Arizona. I've written a book called The Healthy PC that I was going around. That's what got me started really getting involved with the computer clubs, was that I wrote this book and then the publisher, McGraw-Hill, didn't promote it. So I said, I didn't just spend 9 months of my life so this book could collect dust somewhere. I need to let people know it exists, and did a bunch of presentations to computer clubs around the western United States, primarily Arizona, Southern California, and the Las Vegas region. My presentation style is a little different than what you might be accustomed to, because I'm not here to sell you anything. My agenda really is to make the most out of our time here. And the way I do that is I'll start by talking about some topical items, and then I want to ask you what questions are on your mind, technology-wise, and I'll do my best to provide an answer. As long as I've got Google, I can probably provide the answer. I'm really smart if I have Google close by. Don't be afraid to ask a question, please. There's nothing more frustrating to me than the room is just silent. And don't worry, I can talk. I'll come up with stuff, but it may not be stuff you're interested in, right? So I want to talk about stuff you're interested in. That's going to be based on the questions you asked me. But what's frustrating to me is when nobody raises their hands and then I'm done and there's a line of 20 people waiting to ask me questions when I'm done. So, and that's okay if you want to talk to me afterwards, but But I do think you will enjoy the presentation more if you participate in it than, not that you won't enjoy it otherwise, but I think you'll enjoy it more. So with that, let's get started because time is ticking. All right, it's no secret XP is going away. April 8th is the magic date. XP will not stop working on April 8th, but updates will no longer be provided. Microsoft will more than likely, whatever updates were made available before will still be available for some time. But any new security exploits or issues with the operating system will remain unpatched and unresolved, which means every day, starting on April 8th, the computer becomes a bigger security risk each and every day that you use it. So XP is a great operating system. I love XP. And it's time to say goodbye to XP, unless you have no value for your identity. I was handed this business card that somebody found. And I'm going to cover up the person's name a little bit here because I don't want to embarrass anybody. But for some reason, this card has a social security number on it. Don't do that. Any more than you should use XP after it expires. So April 8th, if you value your identity, don't upgrade a computer from XP to 7. Buy a new computer. Because that Windows XP computer was designed to run XP. It was not designed to run Windows 7. It will run it, but it won't run it well. The problem we have in this business is the terminology. You know, when I say run, it generally means to move quickly. It would be more accurate to say Windows 7 would crawl on a Windows XP computer. So for what this stuff costs nowadays, it just doesn't make any sense to put yourself through trying to do an upgrade on something that was never designed or engineered for that. Now, another news topic that's going on, because I'm going to get through this as quick as I can. Microsoft will not call you and tell you you've got a virus on your computer. And just the other day, a customer called me and said, you know, this whole thing kind of seems suspicious. And I said, well, did the person, they said they were from Microsoft? Yes. Did they have a foreign accent? Yes. But I got their phone number. I said, you got their phone number? Yeah, I *69. They don't even have caller ID, right? So I said, okay. Let's call that number. So the number is actually what's on the Google search. If anybody calls you and you're not sure who it is and you have caller ID, you can always Google the number, and if nothing comes up, it's probably okay. But if stuff comes up like this one did, she was under the impression that, you know, she's got them. She's got their number. I've got them. So I'm going to dial this number right now.
This call could not be completed because you're trying to reach a Skype user.
It'll
This
repeat.
call could not be completed because you're trying to reach a Skype user.
So this call cannot be completed because you're trying to reach a Skype user. Then they called her 2 more times, each time from a different number, and she wrote all those numbers down, and none of those numbers will connect. So she's under the impression she can call them back, and she can't. So Microsoft doesn't care if you have a virus. They really don't. Yeah, you and everybody else. That's your problem. The only time you're ever going to get a call from Microsoft is if you asked for one. So if you had called Microsoft and they said, all lines are busy, if you'd like us to call you back, leave your name and number, then you'd expect a call back. The same is said for pretty much any other unwanted solicitation, because that's ultimately what it is. Now, luckily this person did everything right, and what she did is she got suspicious and she ended the phone call far too politely, in my opinion. Just hang up the phone. You don't owe them any amount of politeness or decorum. Just hang up the phone. And if it makes you feel better to curse them out, that's fine, but they're not listening to you anyway. They're just listening for credit card numbers. So the other thing she did is she did give the credit card number, but she told them not to charge it. But here's what she did that was good, and that is that after talking to me, she immediately got on the phone to the credit card company and had them shut that card down and issue her a new card. And there were no charges on it yet. And since they shut it down, there won't be. So reacting as quickly as possible is key. Timing is key. So we all make mistakes. It's not waiting to see how bad it gets before you do something about it. Prevent it from getting worse. And if you need to call somebody, call somebody. Or if you're even suspicious of a phone call from a credit card company or a bank or Microsoft or even Cox Cable or CenturyLink or your internet service provider telling you there's something wrong with your computer, we're going to fix it for you. Give me your number, let me call you back. If it was a card, like if it was a bank about my credit card, I would say, you know what? If this is a real call, I'm going to call the number on the back of my credit card, not the number you give me, because for all I know, they could be giving me a number that goes right to them. And I'm going to ask the credit card company, are you guys calling me? And if so, please patch me in. There was another trick that people were doing with, this happened with a Verizon user, but I think it could happen with almost any cell phone provider. And this trick was actually kind of clever. Person calls, says they're from Verizon, and it just so happened the person the story comes from had an issue with Verizon and was dealing with customer service a few weeks prior and thought that this was a follow-up call. So good timing on behalf of the scam artist, because they couldn't have possibly have known that. And during the progression of the phone call, they asked to verify the identity of the person they called. Now normally, when they verify identity, it's because you called them and they want to make sure you're who you say you claim to be. When they call you, they know who they called. So it's pretty unusual, but what they asked for seemed pretty harmless. Give me the last 4 of your social and your zip code so I can verify that it matches with our billing information in the system. Well, what risk is there to give the last 4 of your social and the 5 of your zip code? Seems like a risk worth taking. It doesn't seem like a big risk. Except that when you sign into Verizon to verify you are who you say you are, it asks you to put in your last 4 and the 5 digits of your zip code to make changes on your account. See what happened there? So just be aware of that. I don't want to make anybody paranoid, but I do want you to be skeptical. That's my goal here. Now, with a couple of news items out of the way, I'd like to involve you as much as possible. Does anybody have a question related or completely unrelated to what I'm talking about? I've got one here, and then we're gonna, yeah, if you bring a microphone, and then if who else has a mic? So we'll get the next one queued up. Yes, sir.
Gary, I help people in the community where I live, and the prevalent thing that I'm seeing is conduit search.
Yes.
Any
Yes.
idea where that's actually coming from?
Well, here's what ends up happening. People will get things on their computer and they say, I don't know how this got on my computer. But when you update Java, for example, Java likes to throw on McAfee security scan, or it likes to throw on the Ask toolbar and change your homepage to ask.com. And you've got to watch those little check boxes when those updates to Java are important and you should get them. But don't just keep clicking next through it. Now, as for this conduit search, that's a little toolbar that comes up in Internet Explorer. And I don't know that it's really causing any harm, but it's unwanted. It's really uninvited. It's there without permission. And it's more than likely just watching everything you do and selling that information somewhere without your permission. They're going to say they're not spyware because you downloaded it knowingly. Whether or not you paid attention is irrelevant. So I don't know that it's an evil thing, but it's an unwanted thing. And generally speaking, you can just go to the control panel. You don't have to run any special antivirus. You can just find it. One of the first things I do when I work on a customer's computer is I go to Add, Remove Programs or Programs and Features in Windows 7, 8, Vista, and I look at anything that says Toolbar. I don't even read the whole thing. I just look for the words Toolbar, and if it's in there, I hit the Remove button, take it out. Where did it come from? I'd have to look over your shoulder and watch. I'm not exactly sure, but more than likely it's from a download of something else that it just hijacked onto. Well, it didn't hijack onto it. They get, whatever you download for free, they're making up money by every time one of these little partner software companies gets installed. So on the plus side, it's not that harmful. On the negative side, it's something you don't want. On the plus side, it's easy to remove. And the best thing I can tell you is you just have to sort of, you just have to watch it and see what was the last thing you did the next time you notice it and see if you can piece it together. It's probably always shifting and always moving, more than likely. Mike, who's got the, right over here? And then we've got another one over here for the next.
I have one here too.
Oh, you're good, okay.
Oh,
It's
he's a gentleman, isn't that nice?
right.
Well, I'm complicated. I do have XP on my desktop. I purchased it with Vista, and I had them install XP.
You downgraded to XP,
I did, because I didn't
or
want to-
upgraded as the case may be.
Yes, there you
Yeah.
go. So my computer does, I do have that system available. I have the disks and whatever. Is that computer, is that upgradable to an 8, or is it the same scenario?
If it's got Vista on it, it will take 7, which means it will take 8. However, that also means it's probably 5 years old.
It is, it's just exactly almost 5.
It's really hard for me to determine if it's going to run fast enough to your satisfaction, but it will run it.
It was, it had a lot of bells and whistles on it. So how much RAM and whatever do I need to check before trying to install a 7 or 8?
Well, ideally, you'd have no less than 2 gigs of RAM. Well, at a very minimum, sorry. Ideally, you'd have 4 or 8. 8 would be just, when I build a new computer for somebody, I put 8 every time.
Okay.
And then,
Now, is that 64-bit? Do I need that, or 32?
well, really the only concern you need to worry about with 32-bit or 64-bit is the amount of RAM you can put into the computer. So any 32-bit operating system, whether it's a Mac or Linux or Windows, has a 4 gigabyte memory limitation. It's a mathematical, I won't get into it, but it's a mathematical problem to, or limitation to a 32-bit operating system. That limitation goes away with a 64-bit operating system, and then that limitation is then created by Microsoft to lower the memory limits based on what version of Windows 7. So Windows 7 Home won't see more than, say, 64 or 32 gigs of RAM. Then you've got to go to Pro to see more than that. So Microsoft has manually restricted it.
Was there a website that was available that you could check and see whether your computer was upgradable to 7?
Any computer is upgradable to 7.
Well,
I mean, you can put an engine in any car. Is it worth the time and the
yeah,
expense to do it?
Was there one? Did I hear something about that?
There's a website that if you wanted to upgrade your RAM and you're not quite sure what kind of RAM to buy, you could go to kingston.com, which is a RAM seller. It's like if you had a laptop and you didn't know what's the most memory you could put in a laptop. The laptops mostly have those restrictions, not so much the desktops. I mean, everything's got its limits, but you're more likely to have a laptop that can only have 2 gigs of RAM, regardless if a 4 gig module will fit in there.
Okay, well, getting back to this desktop that I have, do I have to pitch it because it's got a lot of junk on there, and that becomes an issue for me to transfer pictures and all those sort of things?
Well, you know, let me tell you what goes through my mind when I hear that question.
Okay.
All the hairs on the back of my neck stand
Oh
up.
dear.
Because what I'm hearing is I don't have a backup.
Oh, I do.
So are you concerned about, because if your hard drive crashes, if somebody breaks in your house and steals your computer, there's a fire, a flood.
I have a little machine that hooks in there and updates it automatically.
Okay, so that's good,
Okay.
but it's still in the house.
Absolutely.
So if I break into your house, I take it and the computer. So you don't really have a good backup. You have a backup, which is good, but it's not a good backup.
Okay.
You're best to use something that you can get that out. Services like Carbonite, Mosey, or even if you just trade the drive with a friend or something, you just get it out of the building, if it's that important.
So is that
The-
doing it to the cloud that you're talking about?
Yeah, the internet, the cloud.
Uh,
And then when you get a new computer, it's just a simple matter of restoring that backup back onto the new computer. It's no big deal. And then when you want to get rid of it, and I've shown this before, but there's a great way if you want to make sure nobody can get your data back. So I've got a bunch of YouTube videos where I show people how to build computers. If you want to, if you had that knack, like you always wondered how it was done, It's like adult Legos. It's really simple. Let's see. I gotta find it. Carrie Holzman, erase data. Maybe that'll find it. Here we go. So I did this to show people a cost-effective means, well, especially for those of us in Arizona.
For you to turn lines on a page.
All right, so now that we've built... So there's the drive. And I've already given it away. This is a 22. That's a 22 bullet right there. This is a 357 Magnum. This is what the Russian Mosin Nagant shoots, 762. That Russian Mosin Nagant is a World War II surplus rifle that's about $100. It's pretty inexpensive. And if you ever have a day where it's really frustrating, and my hope is to go clean through the other side, and that's where this water boiler is really going to help us out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and aim for the middle, because knowing my aim, it'll probably end up somewhere around here. That's where you want it to hit, is around the edges. There's a platter, there's numerous platters inside, and you want to destroy those platters. So how you destroy them is entirely up to you. You can go out there with a hammer, but any other way, the data is pretty much going to be recoverable. And I don't know anybody who's really going to go to that effort unless you're somebody of stature. Again, I don't think the NSA is going to go through that trouble unless your last name is Snowden. So I think you're okay. But if you just want to be sure, you need to destroy the drive. Drives are very inexpensive. It is not the ecological thing to do, but they can be still recycled. You know, they can be melted down. I've seen people use thermite and melt it down themselves, but it's very toxic, and you really don't want to do that. But drives are very inexpensive, and if you've got financial data and you just don't want to risk it, this can be a fun, therapeutic, entertaining way to ensure that that data will never, ever, ever be recovered. However, do make sure, please, do make sure you get everything off of it that you want first. Yes, sir.
Excuse me, back to your first subject. A week and a half ago, I was outside doing something, heard the phone ring, didn't go inside to answer it. When I went inside, looked at the caller ID, it said I had a call from Microsoft, something or the other. I mean, something looked legitimate. I hit redial, and somebody at Microsoft answered. An English speaker answered, like, Microsoft, help.
Thank you for calling Microsoft. How can I help you?
Right.
Although sometimes the giveaway is, thank you for calling Microsoft. How can I help? My name is Jason. And clearly his name is not Jason.
Right. But this was a person who sounded just like you.
Okay. Just now or before?
And I said, is this Microsoft? And he said, yes. In uninflected.
Don't ask a barber if you need a haircut.
And so I hung up. Would the calls that people are getting, do they show that they are from Microsoft?
There's something called caller.
The part that intrigued me.
There's something called caller ID spoofing. Caller ID spoofing is particularly nasty. There's a famous hacker named Kevin Mitnick who's a social engineer. He doesn't really do anything technical. He just says, hey, I'm from CenturyLink, your phone company. Can you disable your alarm and let me in your house? Sure. So he gets around the technology by hacking people. So one of the things Kevin Mitnick did early on was caller ID spoofing, which is a lot of people's voicemail for their cellular phones don't require you to enter a PIN if they see you're calling from your own number. So if I tell it I'm calling from your number, I can get your messages. So that's what he was doing, and then he can get vital information to use that for more social engineering. Yes, they can fake the caller ID. That's the simple answer to your question, and it's easy to do. You can Google search and Google, there are websites that will call a number for you they'll say, what number do you want to show on the caller ID, and they'll do it for you. You can experience it yourself. You can call yourself, just experiment with it, put a number in there, and you'll see that number come up.
Your previous question about toolbars being installed because you didn't pay attention, you didn't use.
Usually that's how toolbars get installed, not paying attention.
There is a fairly new product called Unchecky. Uncheck with a Y at the end of it.
Okay.
And it's constantly now being updated, and it takes care of those little programs that like to give you presents that you didn't really want.
That's a new one. Keeps your check boxes clear.
Yes.
See, I come here to teach people and I end up learning something. And they said that wasn't possible. All right. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Doesn't yet cover all of them, but like
when you install that, do you have to uncheck any boxes or?
No, that's the nice part.
Okay.
You don't have to uncheck.
Well, look, it's a legitimate question because people will download like uninstaller software. I'm like, why did you put that on your computer? So I can uninstall stuff. So you installed something.
Uninstalled, right.
What? Yeah. Do you have the microphone? Oh, okay. Well, we'll get you one. Good tip, thank you.
Two quick things. Before you destroy it with a hammer, wear safety glasses because that stuff shatters all over the place. Okay.
Very good point, thank you.
The other thing was there's a recent spam going around that you get a phone, they ring your phone once, they leave no message. It shows up from a spoofed. And when you call, you say, I wonder who that is. And when you call
it back,
immediately incur a $20 charge. And that's going around in the area really rampant right now.
You should be aware on the zip code. As far as I know, like, I don't have international calling on my phone. And it was an option that I could turn on or turn off. I don't know anybody to call internationally, so I don't need it. If I did, I'm not sure what your options are except paying attention to the caller ID. But there was an email going around warning of this. If you dial this certain area code, you get charged, and it was sort of half true. I haven't heard of this particular one.
It's a U.S. area code.
But usually it's a 900 number. It's usually got a prefix on it, or you have to dial like a 01 or 011. There's usually some other.
Other than one, yeah.
Some other number you have to initiate to get out of the country. So if it's a U.S. area code and it's not a 900 number,
It's Caribbean area code.
I was going to say it'd be Caribbean, which isn't American.
What it's worth, be careful.
Yeah. Well, it's again, just be skeptical. My attitude is if somebody calls me and they don't leave a message, I'm not calling them back. If I don't know who it is, if they want to talk to me, leave me a message. Curiosity killed the cat, and I'm on like live 12 right now, so I'm done with it. We get a microphone over here. But a good tip, good to be aware of.
I have a question. I don't know if you can answer it.
That's good. I like the ones I can't answer.
At 5:30 in the morning, when the phone rings, you usually get bad news. My husband and I had a unassigned area code
Okay, yeah.
on that phone. We Googled it, we did everything. I even went to Cox and said, okay, how do I find out who this is? They couldn't do it.
No, they can't.
They kept coming back telling me it was an unassigned.
Yeah.
I checked just about every country I could find, and it came back unassigned. It stopped at 682, and then it started up at 684. What kind of a spoof was that? Where did that come from, etc.?
Well, those unassigned numbers will come through as basically another way of blocking. They made up a number, it's not a legitimate number, so it has no designation of where it belongs. So the caller ID has no way to say that's Michigan or that's Tennessee. It's a number I don't know where it's from. It's unassigned. It's fake. That's ultimately what they should be come up and say it's fake. I suppose there's a chance somebody's got a brand new area code that the system hasn't been updated with, but I've never seen that. But The bottom line is I wouldn't even have spent that much time on it. You know, if it comes up, the phone rings, I would just lift the phone off the receiver, or, you know, if it's something important, they're going to call you. I mean, if you pick it up, you say hello, and you want to find out who it is, that's fine too. And the minute you realize it's not that emergency call, just hang it up. Again, you don't owe anybody on the other end of the line any politeness. Just hang it up. And if they call you back, take the phone off the hook.
Eric did that for 1/2 hour. And when we took the phone off the hook, of course, the phone started buzzing at our house.
Yeah.
Because you took it off the phone.
Right.
The hook. That gentleman, the first 4 or 5 phone calls stated nothing. He hung up as soon as he heard my husband's voice, and my husband turned around and looked at me and said, "Did you have a boyfriend?"
And you said, what do you mean,
And
have?
I said, "Are you nuts?"
Have.
So his language and his determination for this gentleman got a little stronger, but this went on every 30 seconds for 30 minutes or more.
Yeah, they can be relentless. There's a story I read recently when I was looking up that other number I was showing you, where somebody said, because you can go on and you can share your experience with a specific number. When you Google it and you see other people have said, this person tried telling me they were from Microsoft. This person said, I don't think they'll be calling me back, because what I did is they said you had that I had a virus on my desktop. And I said, I don't own a desktop, I own a laptop. And then it somehow magically moved to my laptop. And I said, well, it's not my laptop, it's my wife's laptop. Do you want me to get it? And they said, yeah. And I said, okay, so it's this box. What do I do with it? And they said, open it. And I said, well, how do you open it? And they said, there's a latch. And so for the next 10 minutes, I said, where's the latch? And just kept egging them on. And then the guy stayed with him on the phone. And then he opened it up and he said, okay, no, what do I do? And he said, turn it on. He goes, okay, well, there's a Q and an H and a W. And he read every key. And then the guy says, he's trying to interrupt him, just the power. Oh, wait, I'm screwed up. I got to start over again. Okay, there's a Q, there's an H. After 50 minutes, according to the story, the other guy hung up. So if you got that much time on your hands, you know, go for it. You can call your telephone service provider and ask them for call blocking, where you can block, for example, unassigned area codes or specific phone numbers from reaching you. That's an option. If it's a cell phone, you can often set a unique ringer to a specific phone number. And one of the ringer options on most cell phone is silence, so that you never have to hear it when that number comes in. You won't know it ever came. It might say you missed 3 calls and you can, well, I didn't hear it ring. And then you can see which calls they were. I usually label them with the name do not answer. That works for bill collectors too, so I'm told. Yes, sir. I'm looking at you. You're walking around with the microphone. I saw you with the, sorry. Other questions?
Right here.
Right up here. We'll get you a mic.
I know you work on computers, but this question is, with the age of all the new e-printers, what kind of conflicts should we avoid between a new e-printer or air printer and a computer to get quality print jobs from these printing companies?
Not exactly sure what you mean by e-printer. Air printing or?
Excuse me, air printing.
So you want to be able to print from a tablet or a cell phone, that kind of thing?
I mean, there's a lot of new printers hitting the market. Are there problems with the computers? Are you only with computers or
well,
software? Or?
I'm mostly a hardware and operating system guy. So my cell phone, and this shocks a lot of people, my cell phone is a flip phone. People go, it's not a smartphone. And, you know, I guess, and this may be my age. I mean, I'm not yelling at kids to get off my lawn yet, but it's coming. But I want this to make and receive phone calls. I don't want it as a GPS. I don't want to take pictures with it. I've got a camera for that. I got a GPS for the other. I got an MP3 player for my music. And the battery life on this is much better. I don't have to worry about dropping it and cracking the screen. I've dropped this so many times and it's fine. The guy at the cell phone store says, enjoy it while you can because they're going away, and you will have a smartphone sooner or later. But and then the other thing that I hear is that computers are going away because everybody's got smartphones and tablets. But don't buy into that. That's just some journalist who got paid to write a piece. That's not true, because anything you see on a smartphone or a laptop or a tablet was created on a PC. So those smartphones and tablets are good for consuming, but not for creating. And as long as we're going to create, there's always going to be PCs. Nobody's designing the next high-rise tower. No architect is using a tablet for that. Ford is not designing the new Mustang on a smartphone. So PCs aren't going anywhere. That kind of came up in that same subject, that there's a lot of hype that PCs are going away because of the mobile platform, but the mobile platform is very limited. Now with regards to the printers today should be better than ever. The problems you'll run into is if you insist on holding on to XP because it still works, and then you buy a new printer and find it doesn't have drivers for XP, it won't install, or some new viruses, or new antivirus software, or other software, TurboTax, eventually will not install an XP, and you'll be forced to upgrade out of it. But as far as the printers go, they should be, note my words, should be easier than ever to set up. They should print better, have much better clarity, dots per inch, vividness, all of that. And where people often go down the wrong road, in my opinion, is they cheap out on the paper or the ink. They try and refill their own ink, or they buy off-brand ink, and then they wonder why their print doesn't look good. Now, me personally, I like laser printers, so I don't have to deal with ink at all, just toner. And I change the toner once every other year. It's about how long it takes for me to empty it. And they have color ones, and the color ones, you have 4 different toners, and that can get expensive at $80 a piece. On the other hand, ink in an inkjet, not so good. And the other thing I see is people who live out here for the winter, and their printer doesn't print when they come here because their ink is dried up. And then sometimes it's like glue, it's on the print head, and they have to buy a whole new printer. And oftentimes that's equivalent to what the ink costs anyway. So those are my thoughts on printers. But I've never actually printed from a phone or a tablet to a printer. But if anybody's got does anybody have any thoughts on that? Since I don't.
I printed a picture from my phone.
You printed a picture from your phone, no problems?
No problem.
Right, directly to the printer, air printing?
Yep.
That's the term, right, air printing?
I
Is that
don't
what it's
know,
called?
it was just wireless, right?
Just well,
Well, that's a term that iPad uses, is AirPrint.
do you know what there's a term for the phone, for tablets and phones. There's a word for it.
AirPrint or Air.
I can't remember what it's called. Is it e-printing?
Yeah.
It just doesn't sound familiar to me for some reason.
I want to know if
Can we?
anybody,
Yeah.
I want to know if anybody's working on the 17.3 inch.
I think your switch is off on the mic. There you go. It's on. No, it's not on.
No,
Something's flaky.
it's the mic.
Okay.
I'm wondering whether anyone's working on the 17.3 inch smartphone.
A 17.3 inch smartphone? That's what the iPad is to me. It's like a big smartphone. Can we get a microphone over here? Thank you. And can we get that microphone all the way in the back?
I'd like you to comment on something. I was having a lot of trouble getting spam emails, and I was a little bit tired
Airport
of it.
utility.
And a friend suggested I go get a domain name and then title my email, no email at, at my name. And he said he's been doing it for a year, and with that out in front, he gets no spam at all. Tell me about what you know about that.
Sounds like your friend bought some magic beans. As far as I know, there's no such thing. There's no such.
If you have your own domain name, you could, if you have your own domain name, you could configure it any way
okay, so with Gmail, you can put a plus after your name, and you can put a little something in there. So that if you fill out like a registration or contest entry and you use that, and you start getting email and it's addressed to that, you know where they got that email address from. They got it from that form you filled out. That could be hard to keep track of if you use a lot of different ones. And you can turn on filtering, and you can say if any messages come through with this do not email me address, then automatically put them in my recycle bin. I don't want to see them. But you don't need anything special. You don't need your own domain to do that. That's just filtering. There might be more to it than the way you've explained it to me now, but I like, and one of my videos shows how to create your own domain. one of the things that I was frustrated about was somebody hands me their email, their business card, it's got their email address on it. And I mean, if they'd hand this to a kid, this kid wouldn't know what it was. But I'm old enough to know what a ham radio license looks like. But I can't make heads or tails because it doesn't make any sense. I can't assume that that's Charles, so that must be an A and not an O. On a ham radio, it's H8MT75. Is that a 5 or an S? There's no rhyme or reason to it. And I said, you know, this is a terrible, terrible email address. And then it's at like cox.net or AOL.com. You can get your own vanity email address where you can register your own .com name. So, for example, my email address is my name, Carrie@carrieholzman.com. And no matter where I live or where I go, anywhere in the world, that never has to change, ever. As long as just like a personalized license plate on your car. As long as you pay that renewal every year, no one else can have it, it's yours. And you can buy up to 10 years at a time. So GoDaddy would be more than happy to sell you your own domain. The hard part is finding one that isn't already taken. It's about $10 a year. And then Gmail was allowing you to sync up with them for free, which they're not doing. It's now $50 a year, but it's still worth it for $50 a year. And then that's yours. And where it especially gets me is in folks that are self-employed or small business owners who have a Yahoo or AOL address, or Gmail for that matter. To me, it's unprofessional. You're a real estate agent, whatever. Get your own domain. Even if you have to go to .net or some other, you know, preferably it's .com. Because if you don't get a .com, what's going to happen, somebody's going to say, you didn't get my email, I sent it to you. And then when you eventually figure out where they sent it, they didn't pay attention to the .net and they put .com because people just assume .com. And there's so many now, .biz and .info and et cetera, et cetera. There's hundreds of them that you can probably get what you want if you don't want the .com. Or you're going to have to get creative. But I just love the fact that I never have to lose my email. I never have to email everybody and go, this is my new email address now because I switched from Cox to CenturyLink. I never have to do that ever again. And the price is very reasonable. And there's I'll have to do some research on it to see if there's other people that would do it for free like Gmail used to, but $50 a year.
Explain a little more detail about the $50 thing.
Well, the $50, what that does is you're going to go to gmail.com, and it's Gmail, but it's to everybody outside it looks like carrieholzman.com. Gmail's got their own spam filter, which is really good. And if you're like me, I mean, I get 300 messages every couple hours, and 295 of them are spam. So spam filtering is very important to me. When I send a message, it appears to come from Carrie Holzman. When you send a message to Carrie, nobody would know that their Gmail's associated this in any way, shape, or form. Gmail also includes their Office alternative, Microsoft Office alternative, which is a spreadsheet, word processor. I think they have a presentation thing as well, and it lets you save your files out there in the cloud so that you're no longer dependent on this specific computer. In other words, what we all do is we save everything to our computer, and then when a virus hits or something happens, we're in a panic. But if we could put everything out there in the cloud securely, then we can use any internet-connected computer at any time, any day, from anywhere in the world and have access to everything. And that independence, I'm all for that. That sort of freedom to not being chained to a specific machine, I think is very important, and hopefully people will embrace that because it's effectively making your backup for you. Yes?
Do you remember when .biz came out? Whatever happened to that?
It's still around. .biz is still a valid, I think they call that a top level domain, the .com or the .whatever, they call that the top level. And yeah, there's still businesses who use it. Still. But again, it's one of those things, it's kind of a pain, you know, you try and go to a website, and for the longest time, if you went to whitehouse.com, it took you to a pornographic website. You had to go to whitehouse.gov. Now that's now fixed. I think it's kind of flattering if I was so popular that if you went to carrieholzman.net, it would take you to a porn site, but nobody knows who I am, and they can't be bothered. So you know, it's all a matter of perspective. Yes, sir?
How do you keep a laptop and a desktop in sync automatically without manually copying files?
A service like Carbonite or Mosey would do that for you. Dropbox, SugarSync. There are a number of services out there. The free ones aren't going to give you much space. And if you've got a lot of stuff, you know, if you're talking about huge amounts of data like pictures and movies, there may not be any easy way to do it.
Well, Dropbox, if you register 2 computers, ups your free storage from 2 gigs to 50 gigs.
Yeah, I think Dropbox got rid of the free storage, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't they?
No.
Oh, they just reduced it, because I think I had 8 and they brought it, they said it was going away.
It's 2 now, 2 gigs if you have 1 computer. But if you register the second computer,
Oh,
they give you another 40.
it was SugarSync. That's what it is. SugarSync is okay. So what you're saying is you get 2 gigs with Dropbox. If you register 2 computers, you get 50. And if 50 meets your needs, that's great. But let me warn you about any free service. There is no support, no liability, and if it doesn't work, too bad. So if it's stuff that's really important to you, I recommend you also, regardless, you should always keep your own backup. It's good to have an on-site backup, but not as your sole backup. So preferably you have the on-site backup for speed, so you can get it quickly. But if something happens to that location, again, robberies, fires, thefts, floods, accidental deletions, viruses, I could go on and on and on. The one thing I can tell you that everybody who's ever lost data has in common, because they all have something in common, none of them expected it. So that's what I would do, is I would use one of those services to keep it in sync. Yes, sir?
Would you talk a little bit about...
You're still having trouble with that, Mike?
Yes. Would you talk a little bit about security programs, especially the ones that are free?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. First of all, here's what you need to know. Customer calls me and says, I got a virus. I need your help. I need you to clean it for me. But I don't understand how I could get a virus because I've got insert virus, antivirus name here, Norton, McAfee, Kaspersky, AVG, Avast, whatever it is. How can I get a virus? I've got antivirus installed. And so what I tell people, and if you've seen me before, you've heard me say this before because it's one of my favorite things to say. What I'm hearing when I hear somebody tell me that is, how could I have gotten into a car accident? I drive a Volvo. So, yes, it's a very safe car, but it doesn't excuse you from learning how to drive. No antivirus product, no matter how much you pay, can offer you or guarantee you 100% protection. Now, I don't like paying for antivirus software because to me, you're paying to not get something. What other business model would that work? Where does that work? I'm going to keep feeding you T-bones until you tell me to stop. Then you're going to get the bill. Or no, you're not going to get the... When I stop, you have to pay me to stop. I'm just trying to think what other area in life that business model would work. And it kind of reminds me of the movies I see on TV from the 1920s and 30s, especially the Prohibition era stuff where the mobsters would be like, you got a pretty nice place here. Be a shame if something were to happen to it. And that's what I sense when I see Norton and McAfee throwing their advertising up. You got a pretty nice computer here. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it. But they can't guarantee that protection. It doesn't exempt you from making good decisions behind the wheel or the keyboard. And with that said, if you can't get guaranteed protection with a paid antivirus, well, why not use a free one? So here's the thing that gets me. Microsoft Security Essentials. You might have read, if you're really into technology, you may have read these articles that tell you how bad Microsoft Security Essentials is. That it just doesn't detect very well. Well, I mean, how things work in a lab and how they work in reality are two entirely different things. So these virus testing labs will throw 1,000 strains of viruses at it and say, well, it caught 200 of them. It's not very good. So I don't rely on any one solution. So Microsoft Security Essentials, which is called Windows Defender and Windows 8, it's the same product, updates for free for the life of the computer, but by itself is pretty useless. So I combine it with a product called Malwarebytes. Now what I like about Malwarebytes may be changing, but they have a lifetime license for about $25. You buy the lifetime license and you're good for the life of that computer. So you're not harassed for updating to send them more money. I mean, it's gonna auto-update itself. It can't auto-upgrade itself. You still will get a notification every couple of months when a new version comes out to click here to install it. It'll download it, but it needs you to install it. But all the updates it does automatically. And the paid version of Malwarebytes will help prevent infections from occurring. There is a free version, but the free version does not auto-update and only helps to remove infections you already have. It does nothing to prevent them. So for the paid version, for the lifetime subscription, about $25, Microsoft Security Essentials, and then I combine that with a service called Web of Trust. And that's at mywot, that's short for Web of Trust, mywot.com. This is a browser add-on. And you need to install it for each of your browsers separately. So if you use Google Chrome, you need to go to mywot and download it. If you use Explorer and Firefox, you need to open Explorer and Firefox separately and download it and install it separately for each browser. When you're done, you'll see this little green, you see right up here, there's a green circle in the upper right corner. Can you see it? Right up where my cursor is, way up in the top. And what this is community-driven results, basically community-driven search results. So if I go to Google, and here's a famous one. This one if I go to Google and I do a search for Dell support, because I've got a Dell and I need support. So let's go to Dell, let's go to support. You'd think there'd only be one link to Dell. But oh no, there's pages and pages of them. And let's see, all these are green. You see how the little green circles are coming up after the... So they're at least saying that the community, not a company, the community has rated these sites safe. Now, if we see a red one, which I know there is a red one in there somewhere. Yeah. All right, so let's say you're not even paying attention and you just click on a red one. Then this screen pops up. Site has a poor reputation based on user ratings. Now you can submit your own rating if you want to participate. This is completely free. Or you can simply leech off the efforts of others, which is what I do. And you may choose that you can say this site is safe and I want to rate it. Ignore the warning and go to the site. Now, let me just say, if you choose that button, do not call me for what happens next, okay? So I like that it's unbiased in the sense that the community rates this, not a corporation with its own agenda. So those are the three things right there, okay? So here's what you do to keep yourself safe. Make sure Windows is constantly up to date. That means going to Windows Update and manually checking it. Don't just count on the automatic updates. It means making sure if you have any Adobe products, Adobe Flash, Adobe Reader, Java, which used to, well, that was Oracle, well, it was Sun and now it's Oracle. These are other ways people can get into your computer. So your Windows can be updated and your antivirus can be updated, but because you left Adobe Reader unpatched, PDF file opens up and you're infected. A lot of people talking about the end of XP, but there's also the end of support for Office 2003. So if you have an unpatched Office 2003 after support ends, somebody could be sending you a document that when you open it infects your computer in spite or despite the fact that you've got all the security software and everything else is updated. So it's important that every piece of software that you run on your computer is updated. It's not fun, but it's necessary, and you can usually just click on just about any piece of software you've got and click on Help, and there's usually a check for updates under Help, or it's under About. Like when you go to Google Chrome, if we go up here to the settings on Google Chrome and go to About, well, this is Internet Explorer. On Google Chrome, you go to About, and it automatically checks for updates right when you do that. You don't have to push a button, and it says Google Chrome is up to date, or it's updating. It will eventually do it on its own, but you don't want to wait for it to eventually do it on its own. You need that protection now. And that's the other thing people do when they're snowbirds and they travel here for the wintertime, is they maybe have a computer here that hasn't been on in 6 months. They turn it on and start using it. No. You need to sit down at that computer for about 3 or 4 hours and do nothing but Windows updates, reboot, Windows updates, and reboot until it says there's no more Windows updates. Go to java.com, get the latest one, or take Java off if you don't need it. Make sure you've got the latest Adobe Reader. Once you've got all that done, make sure your antivirus is updated, it's working. Now you can use the computer. It is not a toaster. You can't just take it off the shelf after 6 months, plug it in, and start using it. You can, but it's not advisable. That's what I should say. Yes.
Why could I not get Web of Trust to install on Google Chrome? It went on the other two browsers, but it would not go on Google Chrome.
It should. That's got to be unique to your configuration. I don't have an easy answer for that without seeing it. Did you ever get the microphone job? Did you have a question? You're good?
I was found out from somebody that if you update Adobe Reader, that you cannot save anything to a PDF again. You have to pay for it.
There is no version of Adobe Reader that you can save a PDF to. It's called Reader.
Yeah.
It's just a reader. There are alternatives to Adobe Reader, Foxit,
Yeah.
and others that will let you create PDF files. To create the PDF files, Adobe Acrobat, which is the full program, is about $600, right in that range, $400 to $600. So, but it's got all these bells and whistles and features that, unless you're a big company, you probably don't need. And so these other PDF creators will also read PDFs. So there's no reason to have Adobe Reader if you've got something else that creates PDFs. Adobe Reader never creates PDFs. It's a free way for you to... Adobe said, look, we can make a document so that nobody can change it.
Right.
But what good is it if everybody you send it to can't open it? So what Adobe says is we'll make the reader available for everybody for free. But if you want to create the portable document file, the PDF file, then you need to pay for the full Acrobat. And then other companies came out and said, well, we can simulate that format at a fraction of the cost. And anybody who does that, basically, if you've got something that will write, then it can read. In other words, nobody knows how to write a book that hasn't learned how to read yet. So you don't need Adobe Reader if that's the case, if you're creating PDFs. But you never were able to create PDFs ever with Adobe Reader. I don't care what version it was. That's never changed. So you always want to make sure if you do have Adobe Reader, you've got the latest version, because viruses, lots of viruses are spread through that. So if you're going to have it, make sure it's the latest. Yes, sir.
I use Chrome for browsing, and I have myyahoo.com as my home page.
Yep.
Every time I log off Chrome, it tries to change the search engine to Yahoo from Google. And I have to use Avast to block it. How can you make Yahoo stop trying to change the search engine to Yahoo?
That's an answer I don't have. I'm not sure if that's a legitimate function or if there's some sort of a adware or other unwanted software, malicious software on your computer that might be initiating that. That would be the first thing I would do. Is I would get Malwarebytes. Do you have Malwarebytes? And so it comes up clean. Okay. So if it's coming up clean with Malwarebytes and it's something related to Yahoo, there's got to be a setting in there. It's something recent. It's shameful, but there should be a box that you can check that says not to do this again, or in the browser to say don't allow it. But at least you figured out a way to block it with, would you say, Avast? That may be all you can do for right now. That may be a Google search. You know, one of the things that cracks me up is sometimes people will write me these letters asking me questions, and if they just typed a fraction of what they typed into Google, they'd already have their answer instead of waiting for me to respond. And something that specific would be a really good thing to search. Have you tried Googling it?
Yes, I got 30 answers saying I have the same problem. What do you do?
So it's still new. So yeah, you'll have other people. First of all, it feels good you're not alone. All right, that's the first thing. But kind of sad that there's not a fix. There probably will be soon. So I would suggest Googling it again in the near future. But at least, like I said, if you figured out a way to block it, it's the same solution. Maybe not as delicate, you know. It may be more of a hammer than a precision instrument, but it gets the job done. But that's a new one. I haven't heard that before. Yes, sir.
If you have a PDF file that you need to read, if you're using Chrome, it can automatically open it.
Oh, Chrome will do it automatically?
Chrome
I didn't know
has
that.
a built-in PDF that isn't going to wind up being hacked because they're constantly updating it on their own.
Right. And of course, if you use Gmail or something like that, Gmail will open those up. Yeah, John?
Because of Chrome, yes.
We need a microphone all the way to the back, if we could. In the meantime, yes. There we go.
Two quick questions, a couple of quick answers. When you talked about using Google as a client when you were going to use your own domain name, I'm sorry, yeah. The question is, will it send it to any free storage or just Google's Dropbox?
Will it send what?
Can you save your information, your emails? You said save it on the cloud. My question is, can you use any cloud storage if you use Google as a client?
Well,
or do you have to go to Dropbox?
Dropbox is not related.
Okay.
Google Storage is Google Storage, and it's free with your Gmail account.
Can you go to other than Google Storage if you want to? If you're using Google as the mail
Not
client?
automatically. You could download your information onto your computer and then re-upload it to another service if you wanted to do that. But what Google's doing for you is when you choose to save a document that you've worked on in Google Write, the Google Write software is on their server and your document's on their server, so it's fast. That's why they do it that way. It's all in one place. And then if you want to share that document or collaborate on it with other people, you can choose to share just that one document, not everything with specific other Gmail users. And then you can both work and share on the same documents, pictures, etc.
The second quick question. I'm using Outlook 2003 because I like it.
Yep.
But you said it's going away.
Support is ending.
So the question, and
It'll never go away.
I frequently have to have my emails on my computer because I go to places where there's no service.
Okay.
So what is a good replacement for Outlook 2003? I've heard of something called Thunderbird. Haven't heard of any others. Is there something you'd suggest?
Outlook is still out there. I mean, Outlook 2007, Outlook 2010.
Is it safe from 2003?
What's that?
Can you use it safely, 2003?
Can he still use it?
I understood the question. I'm trying to process it. It may not be how you use it. It's the very fact that it's running on a computer that is connected, in most cases, to a high-speed, always-on internet connection. The fact that the computer is on and connected to the internet opens you up to potential. Let me share a story. I was doing a presentation, and some of you may have been there. It was Arizona, it was at the Technology University in Tempe. University of Advancing Technology. I remember it. And this person said, I have a question. I said, yes. He said, I got a brand new computer, turned it on, it's got a virus. How's that possible? And at the time, there was this worm going around, blaster worm. And I said, you have the blaster virus, that's all it is. Next question. He goes, no, me again. Yes. No, it's brand new. I took it out, I unwrapped it, I plugged it in. I didn't do anything else. I said, when you plugged it in, did you plug it into your high-speed internet? Well, of course. Do you have a router? No. So it went right into the back of the modem. Yeah. And then you hit the power button. Yeah. You've got a virus. Next question. Same guy. No, I don't think you understand me. I said, no, I don't think you understand me. He goes, I didn't go anywhere. I didn't bring up Internet Explorer. I said, come talk to me after. Because you don't have to. The very fact that you're connected. Now, Service Pack 1 or 2, I think it was Service Pack 2, turned the firewall on sooner. That solved that problem. But, you know, a router would also have solved it. But he could not grasp the concept that the very act of turning the computer on to an always-on internet connection was all it took to get the infection. That it must have come that way from Dell. John?
I was just going to comment. If you use the PDF viewer in Chrome, and you find that PDFs are not opening properly, that could be why.
Because it's in Chrome. Well,
they're PDF. I noticed that some PDFs do not open properly.
You've had some trouble with some PDFs. Yeah, well that's par for the course, I think. If the PDF was created with, say, like the latest version of Adobe, and for whatever reason they haven't updated to that, or there's some feature, that would be my guess. So, I mean, I like to use Adobe Reader because I never have that problem, but I hate to use Adobe Reader because it's a pig, and it's always needing to be updated. So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. How am I on time? Does anybody know how I'm on time?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, good, good, good. Do we have a microphone here? Oh, here we go.
Me again. I'm confused about all these browsers we're talking about.
Okay.
You're talking Chrome. I've talked about, somebody's told me about Firefox, and yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
And so I need some guidance here.
Okay, hold on. You're looking for a car. Do you want a Nissan, or do you want a Toyota, or do you want a Ford, or do you want a Chevy, or do you want a Suzuki, or do you want, they're all cars.
Yes.
They're all cars. They all take you from point A to point B. All browsers browse.
I'd like a kiss one, please.
But keep it simple. Keep it super simple. Keep keeping that. Keep the latest Internet Explorer, which is version 11, is almost indiscernible to my eyes from Google Chrome. They look exactly alike to me. There are a lot of browser add-ons that really win people over in Firefox and Chrome, but then they become crutches. So they might have an ad blocker or something like that, and then the ad blocker stops working or they stop making it, and now they don't know how to stop their ads anymore. It's kind of like my cell phone. My cell phone has everybody's number in it. I don't know anybody's number anymore. It's a crutch. If I lose my cell phone, I can't call my dad. I don't know his number. I really don't. So in a way it helps, and in a way it hurts. So these browser add-ons, I don't like becoming dependent upon them. So I don't use the browsers for that reason. I use them for reasons of speed. Facebook is taking forever in Internet Explorer, so I'm going to try it in Firefox. Does it work well in Firefox? Then I'm just going to use Firefox from now on. They both do the same thing. It is a personal preference. What I like may not be what you like. It's like if I was a professional chef and I put a plate of chicken wings down in front of you and you asked me, are these spicy? And I said, no. And then you bite into them and they're spicy. To you. But does that mean I was wrong? I mean, after all, I'm the expert, I'm the chef. Ultimately, you have to have your own experience to decide for yourself. You can't live through mine. But what I'm trying to do here is to encourage you to have that experience, to say, look, yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff out there. But if you want to download Chrome, it's safe for you to do so. If you want to download Firefox, it is safe for you to do so.
Back on that old XP that you want me to dump now, I had Firefox on there.
Yeah?
So.
What version of Firefox? That's updated all the time.
Oh, sure. Automatically?
No.
No.
Mm-mm. No. You could be 10 versions behind in Firefox.
No, never.
How would you know?
Famous last words.
Yes?
What is your opinion of using the host file for blocking?
Waste of time. Waste of time.
Thank you.
The websites are always changing. They're changing. There's over 75,000 new viruses released each and every day out into the internet. It's always in a constant state of change. It's always in a constant, it's like a shark. It's always moving. You can't just nail the target up and go, that's going to solve it. It's not that simple. So what I would use is that web of trust right here. This keeps up with all those changes from the user community. But if this was 1996, I'd probably say use the host file. Yes, sir?
Would you comment on sandboxing the browsers?
So the concept behind sandboxing is that you create a playpen where you can do anything you want and nothing's going to get saved. And that's called, they refer to it as a sandbox. So you can go in there and do anything you want to do on the internet, download any file you want to download. It will not save it to your hard drive, and it won't make any changes to your computer. And do you know how frustrating that is when you're trying to add something to your computer, like I'm trying to download this game, and it won't let me play this game? Well, that's because you're in the sandbox mode. You can't do that. Well, so you got to turn the sandbox off and then get the game. But then how did I get this toolbar? Well, because you downloaded the game because you turned off the sandbox. So I don't recommend sandboxing. For the average user, it's far too confusing of a concept.
Is that what deep freeze is?
Deep freeze locks the computer into a specific state, as I understand it, so that it can be returned to that state, which is effectively making the whole computer like a sandbox, very similar. Generally, the term sandbox is used within an application specifically, not the entire operating system. But I suppose you could sandbox the whole operating system. That would be a good example of effectively, it's semantics. It accomplishes the same task where no changes are made. And that's lovely when you don't want changes made, and it sucks when you do.
It's a big pain in the butt.
Yeah. She said it's a big pain in the butt.
It is great in a senior center, where your seniors
If you have
access any place on the internet and you'd like them to do so.
If you have a computer that is for public access, where anybody can sit down and use it, absolutely, it's a necessity.
I don't run an antivirus program.
Who cares? Yeah, because nothing's going to stay.
Right. It's safe. Second you shut it off, bring it back, goes back to where it was.
Yep. But you know, you could buy a Google Chromebook, and the Google Chromebook will do effectively the same thing. It just opens you right up into Google, and all your documents are on your Gmail, and all your emails on Gmail, and you can be right in the middle of typing something, close the lid, when you open it back up, it's right back where you left it. Now, if you want to print, or you want to throw a USB drive on there, not so much. You want to add the Family Tree Maker or TurboTax, not going to happen. You have to do everything on the web. So if that meets your requirements, if that will meet your needs, it's a great alternative because there's really no maintenance involved. You don't have to worry about updates. You don't have to worry about viruses. You know, when people write the viruses, they're writing for the biggest audience possible, right? So if I was a manufacturer of a product and I could make this product for men, women, or children, but I have to pick one, I'm going to pick the largest potential sales market. And so that's what the virus writers are doing. If I'm going to sit down and write this virus, do I want to write it for the Mac? Do I want to write it for Chromebooks? Or do I want to write it for Windows? Which one is going to give me the best, statistically, the best payback, the best investment of my time? So don't let anybody fool you into thinking Linux and Mac are virus proof. They're just not worth the virus writer's time. But if we all switched over, you know what it reminds me of? So if we all switched over to Mac, because that's what they say, oh, just switch to a Mac, you don't have to worry about that anymore. And then we all switch to Mac, and guess what? It'll flip-flop, and everything will be on the, all the viruses will be written for the Mac. There was a Simpsons episode where Homer Simpson is designing a car, and he says, all right, you know what this car needs? You know that little orange ball you put on your antenna so you can find your car in the parking lot? Every car should have one. It's kind of the same thing. We have another question somewhere? Anyone? All right, so what I'm about to talk about you may not be interested in. You sure? I'm here, now's the time. Call my bluff. All right. Well, this may be a good time to wrap it up anyway. I thank you all for coming to see me, and I hope you enjoyed it. If everything worked out well, thank you. My business cards are on the table there, or if you want extras, I've got more up here. I'm recording the presentation. I hope to have this up on YouTube if I did it right. Sometimes I play it back and find out I forgot to turn my microphone on or something. But if it's all the way it should be, you can go to my website, which is my name, kerryholzman.com. It takes you right to my YouTube channel. And there's videos of all varying lengths and topics there. And hopefully this presentation will also be included there as well. So thank you again.